What's up, guys? Welcome to the Light and Lamp podcast. I am here with some usual suspects and some new faces. So let's get everybody introduced here. So I am here with Tim.
Yo.
Steve.
Hello.
And we have two special guests here today. We are here with our buddies Nick.
How's it going?
And Joe, who you actually was also on an episode earlier in the season. But welcome, Joe, back to the podcast.
Hello.
And today we're doing a little bit of a different episode. I'm sure you guys have noticed some different things. If you're coming over from the Legit Brownies Gaming channel because you saw the update video, thank you guys for coming over. All content for Light and Lamp will be on here from now on. So everything for Light and Lamp podcast, this channel. Also follow the Twitter if you want in on that action as well. And yeah, so today's episode is going to be a little bit of a different one. I know the NHL has announced their return to play format and some playoff stuff. We're going to be getting to that, and we're going to do all sorts of content on that when that game comes out and as the playoffs happen. But today, we're kind of stealing a little bit of an idea from one Anthony Fantano, the melon himself, the best teeth in the game. We're going to steal his Let's Argue format because I happen to love that series. And if you guys like music, check out his channel for sure. He does fantastic work over at the Needle Drop and the Fantano channel. But I went on Twitter, we talked to our friends, and we asked for some hot takes, tough questions, and unpopular opinions. And we're going to call this segment Hot Takes Hockey. We're going to try to turn this into a regular segment here on the channel. Probably do this one and then maybe another one. And make it a more of a regular segment when next season comes in. So basically, we just got a bunch of hot takes and we're going to talk about them. So we'll start with a few softball questions just to kind of get everyone acclimated to what's going on here. And then we'll go down and we'll get into some real interesting takes that some people have hit me with. Some that I don't really think I agree with, but I got some good ones coming. So let's start with a soft one, and this comes from our buddy Pete. We'll cast this one. We'll go down the list. We'll say yes or no for this one. It's a yes or no question. Winnipeg has the nicest jerseys in the National Hockey League. Yes or no, Joe?
No. Solid no. 10 out of 10, no.
Nick, yes or no?
Yeah, definitely not.
I think, personally, yes. I love the Jets jerseys. Steve, yes or no?
Oh, no.
And Tim, yes or no?
Yeah, no, that's a soft no.
May I add something into here, Rob, real quick, though?
What's up?
I do want to make a point that their third alternative jerseys, the ones that just say Jets, in my opinion, are very, very nice.
The baby blues?
Their logo just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, those baby blue jerseys are fire.
But besides that, that's like I wasn't even a fan of the original Winnipeg Jet jerseys. I mean, until those baby blue ones came out, in my opinion, the Jet jerseys, they just personally don't do anything for me.
But by original Jets jerseys, are we talking WHA Jets? Because I might have to fight you on that one.
Yeah,
now,
those are fighting words.
I just want to clarify. The WHA Jets, they were the ones that just used, what was it, the brighter colors or the darker ones?
Okay, the WHA Jets were both the white logo, and then later on it was the blue logo.
Okay. I like them better personally with the white logo. And if I'm not mistaken, they had a darker color jersey than when the Jets came into NHL, right?
It was more of their jerseys were actually a little bit lighter because it was more of a royal blue as opposed to a navy blue that they wear now.
Okay, because I am a fan of brighter jerseys. I mean, I'm somebody that likes the tacky, weird stuff. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think the Fisherman jersey is one of my most favorite jerseys, and people will hate me all day long for that. But I don't know. I don't think the Winnipeg Jets do have anything special in their repertoire or their fashion of jerseys.
Okay, so then we'll go up the list this time. Tim, who has the nicest jerseys in the National Hockey League?
All right. I mean, honestly, I'm a really big fan of the Blackhawks logo.
Ooh.
I love the Blackhawks home jerseys.
Can't go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, which are you talking about? Like,
in terms of like, if we're just going with straight home and away jerseys, that's probably my favorite jersey.
Okay, I was gonna ask because they do use the throwback logo on the black jerseys.
Yeah, no. If we're just talking like the throwback logo is also nice, but like if we're just talking home and away, it's Chicago.
Steve, who's got the nicest jerseys in the National Hockey League?
Honestly, I'm really torn. It's the Canadians are so classic, like those red ones. But like I love Toronto's new like redesign. I love like the striping on it, and like the new logo is just fire with that blue. So I hate having to say Toronto, but I'm gonna have to go with Toronto, I think.
I almost forgot to mention the lightning blackout ones. Those
Ugh.
sexy things.
Oh,
Ugh. Tim,
gross.
you like those?
Nah, but I knew everyone was gonna say no.
Those are
Okay.
those are a color commentator's worst nightmare because they can't see the numbers or the names. I think me personally, I love the Winnipeg Jet jerseys. They're my favorite set in the National Hockey League, especially when they wear those with the Winter Classic throwbacks. Those are absolute beauties. Although I will say, if we're including throwback jerseys, I mean, how can you not love the Carolina Hurricanes' use of the Whalers jerseys? But I do say I think Winnipeg has the best jerseys in the league.
The Kachina Arizona Coyotes aren't mentioned.
I'm
Kachina,
going to be honest
sorry,
with you.
do not know how to pronounce it.
I was never a huge fan of those. I think they're cool. Don't get me wrong. I think the logo's interesting, and I love I'm with you, Joe. I love weird, like quote unquote ugly jerseys.
Listen,
I've always been a
there's
big
a jersey not a lot of people know that aren't huge into it, but the Tucson Roadrunners have the same exact themed jersey as the Coyotes' new third jersey, except the colors are slightly changed, and so is their logo. And in my opinion, that is one of the nicest jerseys in like actual professional hockey. If you do not know that jersey, I'm telling you guys, you have to go look it up. They perfected the Arizona Coyote third jersey, in my opinion.
Are they AHL or ECHL? I think they're
AHL.
AHL.
They're the Coyotes AHL team.
Nick, who has the nicest jersey in the NHL?
Probably St. Louis.
The Blues, really?
Which
I
one are we
love the
talking
Blues
about?
jerseys. All
I don't have a problem with those. I think they're nice jerseys. I think they're classic. I think they're
Yeah,
well
they just
done,
have
and they're
that-
not too flashy.
Yeah,
Their
they have a
retro ones
basic
that they
look.
brought back are a top 5 jersey for me. So
You can only have 5 top 5s. Right.
yeah, how many other
Every
top 5s did I
jersey
mention?
in the world is a top 5 jersey for
Okay.
Joe.
Yeah.
So Mr. Top 5, who has the nicest jersey in the NHL?
Are we talking overall currently?
I'm talking if the jersey set. So we'll take home, away, and if they have an alternate, you can throw that in. Like the set of jerseys that this team wears. Because the next prompt that we're all going to do as a warm up is very interesting, and it also still relates to jerseys. So
I might have to go with what Bobby Nystrom told me this, and I have to probably agree with him. Chicago Blackhawks.
The Blackhawks are a classic. They're a classic team. They really haven't changed their logo almost at all.
You can call me Bobby Nystrom. That's a cool name.
No, I met Bobby Nystrom at a bar once, and my dad was it was an Islander Ranger watching party, and my dad, for whatever reason, wore a Chicago Blackhawks jacket.
Because
Literally, I'm at the bar with my dad having a drink. I say hello to Bobby Nystrom because him, Kenny Morrow, and Clark Gillies were there that night. And it was from some charity. And when I was there, like Bobby Nystrom, like he said hello to me, great guy, very nice, like any other ordinary person. But as soon as he greeted us, the first thing he said, he pointed at my dad right at the Chicago Blackhawk jersey at an Islander Ranger viewing party and said, those are, excuse me, I don't know his exact words, I forget, either nicest or those are my favorite jerseys of all time. Because there's just so much color in the logo. Regardless of what they've done and what style of logo, unless you like go into some of the ones that they used in the 40s, which in my opinion weren't as bright and colorful because they weren't. Their jerseys have always, like, you could just wear anything with them. They always match, no matter black, white, blue jeans. It doesn't matter what you rock with them. It's just you always look good in a Blackhawk jersey.
I think the Hawks are one of the few teams. I think there's only 5 or 6 teams in the NHL that has never used a different logo. They obviously they have the ones that say Chicago Blackhawks, but I mean, as far as the main logo is concerned, I think it's them. I think Detroit, Montreal, just a couple of handful of teams. They're definitely classic, classic
on their
logos for
logos?
sure. Or
On their
classic,
jerseys?
yeah.
Because didn't
Like,
Montreal use one that had a globe as their logo for the Winter Classic?
Those not counting alternates. So I think in terms of home and away, they're
The
one of the
Chicago
few
Blackhawks.
teams.
And now I'm going to go into total, like, just playing NHL mode right here. Didn't the Chicago Blackhawks have a jersey in, like, 1943 that just had a C on it or something? I don't want to say something stupid. Or it just had stripes. Didn't it
That
have
was the
no
Ottawa
logo with
Senators, I
just
think.
stripes?
No, Joe, I know which one you're talking about. They had a C and they had it looked like a hammer and a oh, what was the other thing on it?
It was a hammer and like a not a like an axe head kind of thing. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that one.
Did they ever?
Was that a jersey or was that just like
I
an
think that's the
alternate for
shoulder
something?
patch. I could be wrong about what I just said, but I think they're one. But either way, they're definitely a classic logo. I think hockey fans, globe wise, recognize that logo. I do want. Okay, so we're gonna hit the next prompt real quick because it's again related to jerseys. So we'll go up the list this time. So we'll start with Tim. This comes from our buddy Pete. Pete said Adidas jerseys in general are way worse than the Reebok jerseys were before them. Yes or no? Since Adidas has taken over the design, jersey quality has gotten worse, or in terms of visual design.
Whoa, that's a tough thing to say. It hasn't been long enough to really say that justly because you haven't had enough different alternates cycling through, and usually it's the alternates that are the nicest. The home and away ones on like the different types of jerseys are like ignorable. The differences, and two, the World Cup of Hockey jerseys were absolutely fire, every single one of them. And the Team USA hockey jerseys before that, there were a few pretty fucking ass ones. Let's be honest about it. Like there were some where I was watching the Olympics and I was just like, why? How did this happen?
Nike has it right now for the Olympics? Or who? I'm asking the question.
I'm not sure, but I do want to say that Tim, the 2016 World Cup of Hockey was before Adidas took over. Adidas took over in 2017.
I'm pretty sure Adidas still made.
I think Adidas did those jerseys, but just so that just to clarify, the tournament took place before Adidas took over the NHL jerseys.
Well, I specifically said the World Cup of Hockey jerseys, though.
So you're saying that you really don't have a strong opinion on this either way, one way or the other, or that it's too soon to call?
It's too soon to call because the World Cup of Hockey jerseys were fire, like I said. So
and they were Adidas, by the way. I did look it up.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. Yes, they did do those jerseys, and those were nice. I do agree; those were very nice jerseys. It wasn't until the season after that they took over the NHL stuff.
Yeah, but I also talked about the Olympics. In the Olympics, the USA ones for a few years were dog shit.
Steve, Adidas is worse than Reebok, yes or no?
I'm gonna say I like the Adidas ones better, honestly. Like the Reebok Edge ones just had some really strange designs early on that I just really didn't like.
I'll say that for me it's kind of 50-50. I think Adidas has some really, really nice ones, but they've also come out with some hot garbage.
Nashville Predators.
I think they've tried to simplify some of the jerseys too much, like by doing away with the bottom stripe. On some of those jerseys, just makes it kind of look like an apron. I think that some of those jerseys need that striping to kind of keep it consistent. I would say in general, I did like the Reebok ones better than the Adidas ones. Not to say that Adidas has done a bad job with all of them, but I think the Reebok ones were a little bit nicer in my opinion. Nick, Adidas is better than or worse than Reebok?
I don't know. I think I agree with Tim. I think it's too early to tell. Like they've had, like you said, they've had some really nice jerseys, but they've also had ones that failed completely. So like, I don't know. Give them a little time. I'm sure they'll come out with something better.
And we'll finish up with Joe. Adidas is worse than Reebok.
I don't think so, because when Reebok first came out, and I even think with the Islander jerseys, they were garbage. Not just that, I think the Reebok material themselves are worse. From what I've had from like a Reebok jersey to what I've seen with the new jerseys, I just feel like the Reebok jerseys just didn't, I don't want to say hold apart the same way, but I just feel like the Adidas are so much more long lasting. Not just that, the material themselves I feel like would be better to play in.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to Adidas, they've only had 3 years and these things take time. I think their decision making on some of them was a little bit suspicious. Like, I didn't really like their first iteration of the Nashville Predators jerseys. I don't think they look very good, but I mean, that's a learning process as well.
The first one they did was the one where it was like dripping, right? Is that the one you're talking about?
Didn't they come out with the design where the bottom stripe was either not there
They're
or
not talking
like
about my chain, bro.
very small to the point where it was like it didn't even look like it was there,
True.
and it was just like this weird mustard yellow, and I just didn't really like it, which is a shame because I really like Nashville Predators jerseys in general. But yeah, all right. So we're gonna get a little bit more spicy now. Those are some kind of softball questions over the plate here. So the last Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup was the Montreal Canadiens. Who will be the next Canadian team to win the cup, and how long is it going to take them? We'll start with Joe on this one.
I'm trying to think, because I don't think Toronto's going to do it. I think they're just going to be that team that never ends up going anywhere in the playoffs. Just based off of the fact of, and people say, oh, playoff hockey's changed, this and that. When I watch a Toronto Maple Leafs game, and Nick can actually back me up on this, because Nick has actually been close enough. Me and Nick sat behind the Toronto Maple Leafs backup goalie, and we were sitting next to, forget his name, what is it, Kyle Dubois? What's Dubas. I don't know how to say his name. I'm
Kyle
sorry.
Dubois.
Dubois is, what's his name? Dubois is on...
Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Yeah, he's on Columbus. But I don't see Toronto playing with emotion. I don't see, like, players, like... I don't want to say getting hyped up around things, but even... I forget who brought it up. Somebody brought it up. I'm not trying to steal their words. I'm just trying to phrase it. It might have been... I have no idea. But Toronto just doesn't talk on the bench even. They just don't seem like a team that wants to play hockey together. They seem like a team that wants to play hockey as individuals. And Edmonton might be the team for me. I mean, when you have Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid, if you get one more superstar piece, I mean, think about it. If they had a goalie that could steal them games back and forth, and they outscored everybody else with just those two, which could happen, why not them next?
So you're saying Edmonton, how many years away from a Stanley Cup run do you think the Oilers are at this point?
I would say 2-3 years. I definitely think they have some pieces to work on. I definitely feel like they need a goaltender. I don't know if either one of their goalies right now would carry them. Besides that, maybe just tying up on defense a little bit. Just make sure that they can get some reinsurance, some shutdown for any big players they might come into. And if they have to ride Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid, I mean, you have Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid down the middle. What two defensemen pair are they going to be matched up against that's going to stop them? Who has that firepower in their division defensively?
Yeah, that's fair.
Stanley Cup's more than a division, buddy.
Well,
what was that?
Well, the reason that I was chuckling when you were saying that is because you said, if they can get one more superstar, it's like they have two of the best players in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, but still, it's not.
But
look at what
not good
Gretzky
enough.
had in Edmonton. How many other superstars did he have around him? Look at the Islanders dynasty team. Even look at the Chicago Blackhawks, Pittsburgh Penguins recently. It was never a 1-2 show. It's hockey.
You
Well,
literally named all
So
dynasties.
here's the
Though.
thing. We'll get into that in a little bit. We're going to circle back to that because I think that's a very interesting pick. We'll go to Nick next. Nick, who is the next Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup, and how many years away are they?
I'm gonna say Calgary.
Okay.
Oh, you
And
piece of
how
shit.
many years? How many
And-
years away are the Calgary Flames?
15.
No, I'm gonna say they're 2 or 3 years. They
Okay.
have Johnny Gaudreau. I mean, he's Johnny Hockey, man. He's unstoppable. They have depth. They have the defense. Hopefully, what's his face? Riddick
Big
be
save,
there.
Dave.
can be their go-to goalie. But yeah, no, I think they have a solid chance of being the next Canadian team.
They would be an interesting one because they were the ones that back when the Oilers were trying to start, were in the middle of their dynasty. They actually broke up the Oilers' winning streak. I think they were the one that broke it up into 2-2. It was an 89, I think. The 89 Calgary Flames with
It was
Lanny McDonald.
86. They did it to
86.
them twice, 86 and 89.
So that's a good pick. I think the pick that I'm going to make, I think I'm going to end up stealing Steve's, and he's going to be kind of annoyed at me for this. But my pick for the next Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup, I'm calling out the Vancouver Canucks. We're going all the way to the West Coast in BC.
They were my second choice.
I was very torn between saying Canucks and Jets because honestly, given the way that Jets defense has played this year, the fact that they were so close to a playoff spot in such a tight division was really impressive to me. And the fact that decor was just decimated in the offseason, I really think if you add one or two solid defensemen to that team, I mean, you've got a Vezina goalie and you've got several key players up front. But the Vancouver Canucks, to me, feel like the most complete team north of the border right now. They have the pieces in net. They have Jacob Markstrom and Thatcher Demko. They have the pieces up front, your Brock Bessers and your Bo Horvats. They traded for
Doesn't
Tyler
even
Toffoli.
say Peterson.
Elias Pettersson, of course. That kind of goes without saying. That guy's going to be a 40 goal scorer every year. And then you've got Quinn Hughes on the back end, along with a steadying force in Tyler Myers.
He's a 40-goal scorer too.
Yeah, well, pretty much. I
When
just
you
think
do
they're
say
a
it like this,
complete
Rob,
hockey team.
When you do say it like this, I hate saying it, and I'm not trying to jump on the bandwagon, but you do prove a very good point here.
And honestly, I think they're a solid 3 to 4 years away. I think the defense needs to grow up a little bit. I think they need to figure out who's really the number one. Are they going to keep running with Markstrom? Are they going to give the net to Thatcher Demko? Quinn Hughes is a front runner for the Calder. At some point in his career, he's going to be a front runner for the James Norris. Give him 3 or 4 years, get a couple of pieces around him. And honestly, they're on the best trajectory, in my opinion, although I will say the Jets are a close second. So we'll go to Steve for the next one. Steve.
You stole my fucking answer. But yeah, no, dude, it's got to be the Vancouver Canucks. Like, that just, like, look how stacked they are coming through that top 6. Like, who in their division is going to stop them? And I really think we talked about this earlier in the season. I thought they had a shot at a Western Conference final this year with how wide open the Pacific Division was. But I mean, I think they're like a good 2-3 years away from a Stanley Cup run. I really think that they're not going to have a real tough opponent in their division. And I think they can start once they get a little more experience, they'll be able to stack up against some of those Central Division teams. I mean, they have the firepower up front to really compete with a team like Colorado and a team like Dallas, and I don't think St. Louis is going to be able to keep up with them. So I really think that like in 2 or 3 years, they're going to be in the best position to go play for Stanley Cup.
Okay, so we have 4 answers in the Pacific Division. Tim, are you venturing out of the Pacific, or are you going to stay here with us?
That's an interesting one because my first thought when you first proposed the question was, "Fuck, it's got to be Vancouver." But then, I thought about it and I was like, "Nah, they're all just looking over the Winnipeg Jets," and that's my answer.
So what makes the Jets going to be the closest team in your opinion? Is it just the fact that this year maybe they needed some help on defense and that's really the only hole they've got to fill?
That's pretty much it. I think that they're the most solid all-around team, looking not including like future acquisitions. Like you all mentioned how they need like this or that. They need a couple of these, they need a couple of that. But I think if you got one superstar defenseman on the Jets, that's an easy shooing.
All right, so Tim has left the Pacific Division. He's left the rest of us in the dust. Like I said, the Jets were my second pick. Let's
Can I add something about? Can I ask a question about the Jets?
Yeah, go for it. Let's start a debate. I was going to say let's keep going on this topic because this is a good one, I think.
Okay, so Tim, with the Jets, I understand like the defense part of the question, right? Like they do need to add maybe one superstar in defense, like they had in Buffalo. But like, don't you think they need to maybe find a number 2 centerman? Because Brian Little really hasn't been cutting it, and he's been injured the last couple of years. So like, isn't that a bigger question mark that would kind of, steer you away from like direct Stanley Cup contention? Or
to be honest, no, not really. They're not every team is meant to have great centers. I don't even know what to say. Like, no, it's just a fact. Like, some teams have like
wingers.
A lot of teams have like a top centerman, and then everyone down the list just sucks ass.
I mean, that's fair. I was just wondering if that would like stick out to you. I mean, I guess if in turn they don't really need the centerman if they have the wingers and they can just smother teams on defense if they really have to.
Yeah, and Hellebuyck is doing a hell of a job back there. So
he's my Vezina pick, by the way. I think Connor Hellebuyck should win the Vezina Trophy this year. Okay, let's keep picking on each other here. I want to pick on Nick for a second. So
yeah,
let's do it.
Nick said the Calgary Flames. I have a question for you. 2 questions, actually. First of all, does it worry you at all that the Calgary Flames don't really seem to have an heir in mind to fill the minutes that Mark Giordano is going to leave on this team, because he's probably going to be either retiring or playing a lesser role in the next 2 to 3 years? Does that worry you at all?
It does, because obviously, like, going down a player like Giordano, like, he's the captain.
Bro, it's the Thornton effect.
Like, it's just, I mean, it's a part of the game, and I'm sure they're going to work around it eventually, but they just don't think it's necessary yet.
Okay, and then my second question is...
I disagree with that point.
No, wait, don't they have another defenseman? Not Dougie Hamilton. What's his name? They traded Dougie Hamilton for him.
Noah Hannafin?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he still has time to grow, though. How old is Noah Hannafin now?
I don't know off the top of my head. But from what I understand, Noah Hannafin is projected to be a maybe kind of okay top 2, but definitely a solid power play specialist top 4. But the reason I asked Nick is maybe not specifically because of the talent level of Mark Giordano, but just because he plays in every situation for that team.
Yeah, he's the go-to player for whatever they need.
Well, look at the difference between this year's Calgary Flames and last year's Calgary Flames. Last year's Calgary Flames were getting Norris Trophy play out of Mark Giordano. This year he was injured and they were getting kind of just okay Mark Giordano. And for a long time, they weren't even in the playoff picture.
It's the Joe Thornton effect. They'll be fine.
Are the Sharks fine?
Okay, they've definitely been better. No.
Wait, but hold on.
Don't laugh in my face. Look at the Sharks from when we were in middle school to now. The Sharks that were getting dusted every year in the first round or didn't even make the playoffs compared to now. Come on.
Now they're not even in a playoff picture.
Bro, they were...
Yeah, but the last 3 years,
I understand what you were saying.
A dominant team.
No. I understand what you were saying. And there's, I'm not saying that Mark Giordano is going to, like I said, I don't think he'll be leaving the team. I was just saying that, I was asking if he's worried about him maybe losing minutes, because not only does he play power play on top line, he plays top line penalty kill. He's the matchup against the top line center. That's going to be a lot of minutes that you're going to have to replicate, not necessarily in one player, but in the aggregate.
They're going to trade for Thomas Chabot.
Yeah, right. I don't think Ottawa's letting that guy go. They're going to do whatever they can.
Rob. It was a joke, Rob. Calm down.
No, I know. I'm just saying. I think to get Thomas Chabot out of Ottawa, you'd probably
pull your horses.
You'd pry him from his cold, dead hands. You might be able to get.
Give up Johnny Gaudreau. See what would happen.
Well, okay, so that was kind of part of my other question. David Riddick, Johnny Gaudreau, they were expected to take big steps this year, and they've kind of just been okay. Are you worried about them capping out and maybe not being those players that would drive a team to a Stanley Cup, specifically David Riddick?
Well, can I say one thing? That Johnny Gaudreau is definitely stoppable. He
You're not
definitely
wrong.
is.
Stoppable as you talking.
He's been stoppable this year, that's for sure.
I mean, yeah, but he's an elite player. But like you said, the steps he needs to take in order to become the player that the team needs him to be. And this year was that, supposed to be that real stepping stone, and he just didn't cut it.
well, they obviously they still have Matthew Tkachuk, and I'm sure that you took that into account when you were making your pick. And I love Matthew Tkachuk, by the way. I think he's one of my favorite players in the NHL.
Oh, so do I.
So
My name Matthew.
So Nick, are you kind of saying like maybe Matthew Tkachuk can be better than Johnny Gaudreau and kind of fill that void, or do you think Johnny Gaudreau, this is just a bump in the road for him?
Yeah, I just think like it was a rough year for him. I don't think he's gonna let it get to him. Like he's shown that he's elite talent. He's shown that he can carry a team, and he also has Monahan with him to help him do it. So once Riddick can, cement himself as the elite goaltender he's supposed to be, I think they'll be set. And Matthew Tkachuk is just a
beast.
Yeah, like he's just like that was just something that like they needed that to get through what they needed. You know what I mean? Like that was the piece that they were missing.
And he's a phenomenal player in all three zones of the ice. So
yeah, he does everything.
I do want to ask Joe, when you said your points about Edmonton, you were saying they only need another superstar. They only need some defense. They only need a goaltender. Are you a little worried that maybe that's because you're asking for some premium prices, because goalies don't come cheap, defense don't come cheap. Are you worried that maybe there's too many holes on this roster to fill when Connor McDavid is commanding maybe not necessarily all the cap, but when the focus for Edmonton for clearly the longest time has been offense, offense, offense? Are you worried about those pieces being too expensive to really build around Connor McDavid?
No, because defensively, they don't need a juggernaut. They don't need somebody that's going to go out there and be, like you said with Mark Giordano, be out there at every single aspect of the game. They could go out there and get two okay, maybe one top 4, one top 6 defensemen, because they have the offense. And as far as a goalie, like even if they just got one okay defenseman and just got a superstar goalie, or got 2 defensemen and one okay goalie, I feel like they could do it. I mean, I just, on the back end, I feel like they always end up just falling short 1 or 2 guys, like that defenseman that, the team, I don't want to say decided to cut, but the team was letting go because they needed another prospect coming up. They never have, somebody that should be a solid 6 whole career. I mean, you look at players that have been playing for 15 years, and, even though they've never been that elite defenseman, maybe not 15 years, even 10 years, they were always playing, 70, 75 plus games, minus maybe a couple games for injury. And that's what they need. I mean, like I look back and, Adam Larson was supposed to be this superstar defenseman. And if he became what he was supposed to, that gap might have been filled. But he, after getting traded, I still look at it as, even though Taylor Hall left New Jersey still won that trade because Adam Larson never developed. I mean, goaltending's always, been shaky.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, they gave up on, I don't know if anybody heard Steve, but gave up on Devin Dubnyk. And you know what? Yeah, even though Milan Lucic is a big contract and everything, I've heard rumors that they might not allow fighting in this playoff. But Milan Lucic has been to a Stanley Cup. He has won a Stanley Cup, and he knows what it would take, even in the playoffs, to do something to contribute. And I know he's somebody that would go out there, even if he doesn't score a goal, he will contribute. And I just feel like offensively, you look even around the league, who's truly better offensively?
Wait,
Tampa, Toronto.
hold up. Were you saying that Milan Lucic is going to be part of the Oilers run? Because he's on the Calgary Flames now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forgot he got traded.
You make a good point, though. You don't, maybe not necessarily with this, the way that this team is built, you don't necessarily need, a Norris Trophy defenseman. Darnell Nurse is a pretty solid defenseman, pretty solid top 2, top 4 type defenseman. I'm very worried about the goaltending, and we all know that goalies don't come cheap in this league.
No,
but-
and I'm not saying you have to go out and get a Vezina winning trophy, goalie. I mean,
yeah. So I kind of agree with that. I disagree that they're going to win the cup, but
You say that, Joe, but look at the past few Stanley Cup championships. Look at the goaltending. The last team to do it with an okay goalie was Chicago, and Chicago had they were a dynasty, so I don't even know if it counts.
Yeah. Wait, let me say one thing. Is Matt Murray an elite goalie, or did Matt Murray play above his level in those playoffs? Because that's different.
I would say he's above average, and he's definitely leagues better than either of the goalies that the Oilers have. And my point necessarily wasn't that, that the Oilers have a goalie that they can put in that position to win right now, because I don't think so, but that acquiring a goalie like Matt Murray comes at a cost, That was really my main point.
And, I mean, I feel like Edmonton has pieces to get rid of. I mean, if they want to win now, draft picks, Jesse Puljujarvi, there's just they could do it. They have everything up front. You're telling me, team, look at Florida. They have what's his name is Spencer Knight, and they have Sergei Bobrovsky. You're telling me that if Spencer Knight develops into an elite goalie, they're going to keep Sergei Bobrovsky for X amount of years, or vice versa? No, they're going to look to get rid of him.
Contract is like $9 million.
It's $10 million over 7 years, but by the time that Spencer Knight's ready to play in the league, that'll be like 4 or 5 years from now.
Yeah, but how many years is it again?
So, I mean, to your point, there will be goalies on the market at some point. My concern was that it was going to cost, the team, but I think, those are all fair picks. I mean, nobody here was saying that, Montreal's going to win the cup this year or anything like that. So we'll move on that one.
Can I just make a mention that nobody even brought up Toronto?
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing.
I find that hilarious, and I'm so grateful.
I just don't think their team comp, and I don't think their team comp's going to change under Kyle Dubas enough to warrant them winning a Stanley Cup, is the thing. He's very hard in his ways.
I don't think anyone can match up with them up front. Like, very few, like Tampa Bay, there are very few teams that can match up with them in their top 6, but their defense is just not gonna be there. After this year, what do they have? Just Morgan Riley under contract, and that's it. And they
they're gonna blow up.
Like a nickel and a dime to try to piece together 6 other defensemen.
If you told me that Toronto did it, I wouldn't be surprised. But they're not my favorite to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Rob wants to move on.
Well, let's. This next one's kind of related. We'll kind of do this one a little bit quick, and then we'll get into some really, really nitty gritty ones that I think you guys are gonna like. But being that the last 2 Stanley Cup winners, the St. Louis Blues and the Washington Capitals, won their first Stanley Cup in franchise history, who's the next team that's gonna win their first Stanley Cup in franchise history? And the list is Buffalo Sabres, Vancouver Canucks, Arizona Coyotes, San Jose Sharks. This iteration of the Ottawa Senators, they don't claim the history of the old team. Florida Panthers, Nashville Predators, Winnipeg Jets, Columbus Blue Jackets, Wild, or Vegas Golden Knights. We'll start with Joe and we'll work our way down.
Seattle.
That is not an option, my friend.
Why?
Okay. Well, I guess Joe's saying Seattle.
Do you think any of those teams are going to win next year?
Nick, who's winning their first Stanley Cup? Who's winning his first Stanley Cup next?
I'm sorry, can you run through the list one more time?
Buffalo, Vancouver, Arizona, San Jose, Ottawa, Florida, Nashville, Winnipeg, Columbus, Minnesota, or Vegas.
Vancouver.
I also say Vancouver in that list. I think they're a great team and they have a lot of promise. Steve,
Yeah, their future looks really bright.
who's breaking the Stanley Cup curse next?
It's Vancouver. They're the closest out of any of the teams on the list.
Tim, who's breaking their Stanley Cup curse?
I want to just I already told you I believe it's Winnipeg, so
Yeah.
That was for Canadian
I think
teams.
Winnipeg is. Well, yeah,
But they're
I'm
also
saying-
on this list.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
on this list, bud. If I had to say anyone other than them, though, I would probably argue that it's going to be Arizona.
Ooh, you stole my option. Yeah, if
But
it's
that's-
not Arizona, it's Vancouver. Arizona, I think they're going to re-sign Taylor Hall, and I've been saying this for, I want to say a minute now, but Austin Matthews is going to end up leaving Toronto, and he's going to go to Arizona and go home, and they're going to win a cup.
Yikes. That's a hot take. We'll get to that later. But
Wowza.
all right. So that was kind of a quickie little related one. Let's really start to
I just want to point out real quick. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Steve.
I would have said Florida if they didn't trade Vincent Trocheck.
I agree 100%.
Because it left such a huge hole down the middle that like they're not going to fill with Frank Vetrano or and they traded Jared McCann, who could have filled that hole, I think, but he's in Pittsburgh now. So it's like, who do you plan on coming up to take this spot? You don't really have anybody.
Wait, did they trade him at the...
All right, so let's get into, and I agree with that, by the way. I think Florida was in a much better spot before that trade. That trade still doesn't make sense to me. I really don't know why they made that trade. It really benefited Carolina way more than it benefited the team comp of the Florida Panthers.
Well, of the division with that, because now they can stack up with teams with matchups that they have.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's true. And
Ranger.
I mean, you can have Sebastian Aho and Vincent Trocheck matching up against, and that can go up against pretty much any top two centers in the division, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I mean, I know Steve and we talked about that when that happened on one of the podcasts. I still just can't wrap my head around why they would have gone and done that. So let's start to piss people off, shall we? Let's really start to make people angry.
Yes, I love it.
Let's get into it.
The Montreal Canadiens are the most overrated franchise in National Hockey League history. They've won 0 cups since the league has become a full league. Let's go to Tim on this one because I know he loves his Montreal Canadiens.
I fucking hate the Canadiens and that stupid dynasty and everything about it.
What makes you say that, Tim?
What do you, the war? Like, oh my god, it's almost as bad as Islander fans with that fucking dynasty. It's all they talk about. It's all anyone talks about. No, even broadcaster was fucking alive when they did it. Let's move on.
What do you mean? Jigs McDonald just retired, what, Rob? 2 years ago? And he was a broadcaster for the Cups?
So
ridiculous.
So let's go to Steve. The Montreal Canadiens are the most overrated franchise in the National Hockey League.
You can't argue with 24 Stanley Cups and how many Hall of Famers. I mean, it's not. I don't think they're overrated. I mean, they've dramatically underperformed since then, but it's like from 1976 to 1979, they're the most dominant team in the National Hockey League. And then you have what? They won 6 out of 10 Stanley Cups in the 1970s. Like, that's ridiculous. Then they won one in the 80s, breaking up the Oiler dynasty. And then they win in 93, again knocking Wayne Gretzky out and keeping him from a Stanley Cup. I mean, it's really hard to argue.
Nick, Montreal Canadiens overrated, yes or no?
No, they're not overrated. Like, I understand that they haven't won a Stanley Cup since it's been a full league, but like, they still got the championships. The cup's the cup. I
Joe,
mean, like,
sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to
like
cut
what? Like, I mean, what's the difference between playing when there are only 6 teams and playing when they're doing a 24-team
Because
playoff
they're
format?
fucking easy bots. They're playing against
But
rookie
no,
bots.
look at the teams they had to knock off in the late 50s there to win those Stanley Cups. You had Gordie Howe's Detroit Red Wings. You had the Toronto Maple Leafs, who were only a couple years off from winning like 4 Stanley Cups in a row. They beat the Boston Bruins. They broke up they knocked off the Chicago Blackhawks twice with Bobby Hull and Stan Mikita. I mean, how do you argue with that? That's not easy, bro. They're not going to Hall of Fame roster.
You named every
Rookie
team
bots.
except for the Rangers.
Rookie bots.
Exactly. You just named every team.
Rookie bots, Tim.
I mean, because the Rangers were terrible back then. I mean, the Rangers knocked them out of the playoffs in '73. So
When you
it
can
happens.
win the cup like they did as many times as they did, it clearly wasn't difficult.
What do you mean? No other team did it, bro. Like, it was that easy. You'd have like a million.
Yeah, it was
teams
that
doing
easy
it.
for them. It was that easy
Gordie
for them. It's
Howe's
fucking
team
ridiculous.
had like 6 Hall of Famers on it and couldn't beat them.
Yeah, okay.
Like, the only team that beat them were other Hall of Fame rosters in the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, that team had Johnny Bower and Red Kelly, Frank Mahovlich. Like, those weren't easy teams to beat.
Easy GMs, my bad. You beat the easy GMs. You were playing GM mode.
Can I make a note that they do have as many cups as Atlanta Thrashers since it's been a full league?
They did win the cup in '93 before the 2000 expansion, and that's what a lot of people who like to argue this will say. Okay, but when was the last time they won a full cup with a full league? Granted, that's only been 20 years. You know, it's really only been 20 years since the league came to be what it is today. But at the same time,
what do we consider a full league, though?
I was gonna say, yeah,
like the
Columbus
modern
joined
day,
in
like-
what, 2000?
I would say like the modern day 30-team NHL, the way it stood for the longest time, was what people argue, right? Before then, it was what, 26 and 28 teams.
Yeah, but when did the 30th team come in? Wasn't it
It was
2000?
2000. It was the Wild and the Columbus Blue Jackets.
So
Yeah.
we're not considering their 93 cup here.
The Montreal Canadiens have won 24 Stanley Cups, 0 with more than 29 teams in the league, is what people will argue.
Okay, but like,
I don't like that argument because, like, when they won in '93, like, I'll count that one.
So they have one Stanley
Like,
Cup according to Tim.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Well, I mean, look at the other teams. How many other
How
teams
many
have
does
won
Toronto
Stanley
have?
Cups with a full 30-team league?
Yeah, that's an unfair thing to say.
Then again, the Rangers do have one since what? 1943?
Okay. Hold that thought, because that was the next prompt to piss you guys off. The Rangers are the worst original 6 franchise because they've won 1 Stanley Cup since World War II ended. Somebody hit me with that one.
The Rangers have
and I know
one
that
cup
there's-
since Adolf Hitler was alive.
3 Ranger fans in the chat here.
honestly, I'd like to start off.
Okay,
All right,
I
go
would
ahead.
for it.
say yes. Yeah, you're right.
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean,
Dude,
it's hard to
if you
argue
l-
with facts. They're just
if you
factually
look
the
at the
worst of the original
numbers-
6 teams.
It's just
New York
proven,
Knicks.
like, it's laid out.
Like, we had great teams and couldn't win Stanley Cups. I mean, it happens.
Is it the curse of
I
MSG?
mean, to be fair, the Blackhawks have won, well, until 2010 had won 1 Stanley Cup, like, since the 30s. So it's like, it was us and the Blackhawks for the longest time, and then the Blackhawks built a dynasty team, and now they're better than us. So whatever, but like, I mean,
It changed in a matter of like 3 years.
we have the least Stanley Cups of the original 6 teams. Chicago has 4, or no, they have 5 or 6. We have 4, and then it jumps to like 6, 11, 13, and 24. Like,
78.
You know what though? You know what? I'm gonna just look. I just looked this up. They're 4th overall though in wins since then.
the Rangers, yeah, they've had really
Yes.
good teams. They just can't win Stanley Cups.
Yeah. So let's not say that. So I think it's. I hate. I guess that.
Historically, we are
argument
the
comes
worst.
down to. I guess the argument comes down to: do you consider the fact that they didn't win cups make them the worst? Like, if you value championships the most, which obviously you probably should, then yeah, they're the worst.
I mean, also there's other things where like the Rangers have had one Art Ross Trophy winner in their history. We've never had anyone win the Hart Trophy. We've like we have one Norris Trophy. We have two Norris Trophy winners in our history. One of which being Brian Leach. Like we have 3 Vezina trophies. It's like we just don't have it, man. And it sucks to say, but we just don't.
We just don't have it.
Yeah, honestly, it hurt to answer, but like I feel like I
Wait,
needed to accept it.
Tim, how did you read that the New York Rangers are tied 4th for Stanley Cup wins?
Not tied 4th, just regular wins.
Oh, regular ones. Oh, okay.
That would be
the hell out of me for a
really
second.
Look how many
disappointing.
divisions we've won and how many times we've gone deep in the playoffs and then just laid an egg.
Well, then again, how many years in a row where there are like no other teams?
Dude,
So you would win one round.
In '92, the Rangers win the President's Trophy, lose to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Like '97, get to the Eastern Conference Final, lose to Eric Lindros. Like it's just in our history, man. We can't do it.
You know what
Just-
though, Rob?
Hold on.
Actually,
Okay, go ahead.
actually,
Sorry,
the
Tim.
Canadians only won 1 cup since then, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, because I don't even count the other ones.
But they've had cups since World War II ended?
I don't count any of them, so it doesn't matter. Only one of them counts.
I mean,
It's a
I
fucking
don't know.
argument.
Like when somebody put this to me, obviously, your first reaction is like, oh, he's an Islanders fan, he's going to agree. The thing with the Rangers that always kind of bothered me in the 2010s was that, like, man, they had such good teams, and there was always one piece of the machine, one little cog in the machine, whether it be a Brad Richards, a Rick Nash. It's just
Rick Nash is not a little cog when he's your superstar, bud.
He
just
wasn't a superstar. He had a
just-
broken back.
underperform and really just kill the whole run. And I mean, I don't know. It's just I'm convinced that 2012 Rangers team would have beaten the LA Kings if they had gotten past the New Jersey Devils that year. But man, it's hard to look at when it's like,
I mean-
wow, like they only have 4 Stanley Cups, and it's like just
They could have won realistically in the 2010s. They could have won 3. They
Yeah,
could have won in 2012, 2014, and in 2015, if they knocked off the Lightning, I think they could have dealt with the Blackhawks.
yeah. It's just
We
I don't
just
know.
have it, man.
like let's look at like the Anaheim Ducks though. Also, like minus the one that they did win in like the past fucking 20 years.
Okay, I don't want to talk about the Ducks. They blew up my bracket every year for like 4 years.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's not easy to do.
It's not because St. Louis. Look how long it took St. Louis to do it, and I had St. Louis pegged for a Stanley Cup every year, like almost every year, and they only just did it.
And
Hey,
it took them like the
interesting
most
fact if you're a
ridiculous
Ranger
odds
fan.
in the world. Probably the craziest odds that have ever happened in sports history.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I don't want to bag on the Rangers. Obviously, when I
Yeah,
was
you do.
really because
No, I
really,
actually have an interesting fact to make the Ranger fans feel better.
what's
Out of
that?
the original 6 teams, they do not have the worst winning percentage
Who
in
would that
Stanley
be?
Cup Finals.
Oh well, 'cause they've only made it like what 7 times.
No, they've made it 11 times apparently, according to NHL.com, and they won 4 times. Out of all the oh wait, nope, I forgot to calculate.
My
You forgot to carry the 2.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't carry the 2.
No, I just forgot to do 2 other teams. Yeah, no. The worst team is the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, they're kind of cursed.
Yeah,
too.
they played 20. They were in 20 appearances, and they only won 6. Where the Rangers were in 11 appearances, and they won 4.
Yeah, but
So-
and the New York Jets are the best team in NFL history.
This is true. 1-0.
Bro, Broadway Joe.
It's tough because really growing up, when I first started to really appreciate the deeper understanding of hockey, obviously the team that I was watching go deep into playoffs was not the New York Islanders. I watched all of those New York Rangers playoff runs, and I really, Steve will tell you, for 3 or 4 years, they were my pick. And it was just every year, there was just something about it. And it's tough. I mean, obviously I'm not a Rangers fan, but I mean, I can imagine watching these teams be so close every year, and then just like some little nail falls out of the house and the whole house falls down.
Bro, it's like I said, bro, we just don't have it.
So,
Like, I think we're the only original 16 that doesn't have some form of a dynasty team.
yeah. Well, the 70s teams kind of peaked at a bad time. I
Oh
mean,
my god, yeah.
when you
with
think about
Montreal.
like Brad Park came second in James Norris voting 6 times, 4 times to Bobby Orr and twice to Dennis Potvin. So
Yeah, exactly.
like, there's nothing you could do about it.
Then when in that league they were playing mostly the original 6 teams in the division, so it's like they were playing the Broad Street Bullies and the Flyers. They were playing the Big Bad Bruins. They were playing the Montreal Canadiens. It's like, really we have to play these guys every night.
Yeah.
Oh, I have Bobby Orr on the schedule 4 times next week. Great.
So
Oh, who's after that? Oh, Jean Beliveau. Fantastic.
let's continue on here with our look at history here, and this is a super spicy take. Wayne Gretzky would be an
I hate
average
this.
player at best in today's National Hockey League. Wayne Gretzky, 99 himself, would be average at best in today's NHL.
Excuse me?
Let's leave this one a little bit open, but we'll go to Joe first. Joe, would Wayne Gretzky today be an average player?
Like, are we talking about like his skating ability back then? Like, we're just time warping him exactly. Like,
Wayne Gretzky at his peak would be an average player at best in today's NHL. I believe is the point that was made.
now, physically, how fast could he have skated back then? Because that I do not know.
Let's assume he's playing with like modern equipment. He's got the composite sticks if he wants them. He's got the nice skates. You time warp him into today's league. You give him today's equipment so that he's not using a friggin' Titan while guys are running around with Bowers.
Yeah, no, because I did have to ask that. I think he would be better than average. I don't think he would be the number one player.
So, do you think he would be? Let's ramp it down. So he's not the GOAT. Is he a Hall of Famer?
If not arguably, Hall of Famer.
So borderline Hall of Famer. Would he be considered one of the better players in today's league, if not Hall of Fame level?
Yeah, definitely.
Where does Wayne Gretzky peak in today's NHL?
I would say like to round out probably like the bottom of the top 10. I mean, maybe like towards 20 even.
All right. So where Tim puts Connor McDavid in today's NHL. Interesting. Okay.
There Rob
Nick.
goes laughing at his own jokes.
Nick, Wayne Gretzky.
I put him as 8, by the way. 8.
How's Wayne Gretzky doing today? How's he doing?
He's not doing today. He's up and down the roster.
He's saying he's not even got a spot on a team.
Not even a spot on the team, bro. Not even a spot.
You're
They
turning Wayne
regret
Gretzky
having
into
to
a
pull
third
him up.
liner?
Dude, not even.
Wow. Well, why? Okay. Well, actually, we'll come back to why. I want to talk about that. We'll come back to why. But Steve, where's Wayne Gretzky at in today's NHL?
Okay, so Wayne Gretzky's still an elite player in the NHL. I don't know if he can compete with the skating of Connor McDavid because Wayne Gretzky was never known to be a particularly fast player.
Thank you.
But he still, like, look at the era he played in, and I know it's wide open, but even playing into the 90s and he was still having 100-point seasons when the league started to be more clutching and grabbing, and he still did it. And with the way those guys used to swing their sticks like they were up at, the back, like the home plate at him, and he wouldn't have to deal with any of that now. I mean, the goalies would be better, sure, so I don't think he's scoring, 92 goals. But, like, he's still a 50-goal scorer, 100-point guy every year. Like, it's the way he saw the ice. I mean, come on.
Okay.
Almost 2,000 points, or over 2,000 points, isn't, like, a fluke.
This is true. This is very true.
Well, I never said it was a fluke.
Tim.
I mean, doesn't even have a roster spot for you.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean then he wasn't the great one.
Then again, Johnny Gaudreau is unstoppable apparently tonight.
Wow. I don't know, but Tim. I know Tim has a very strong opinion on this, and then we'll kind of get into the big debate here. What are your thoughts, Tim?
So I've said many a times that Gretzky doesn't do what he did back then today, but to say he's not better than average is ludicrous. Like I don't
Okay,
even know how you say
Could
that.
I ask a question? Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
Can we use current players to establish tiers, basically?
An average? Who's an average player in the NHL, you asking?
Yeah, like who would you list as an average player in the NHL?
Panarin.
I
You
would
know who's an
say
average player? Cam Atkinson.
I was gonna say somebody like Cam Atkinson, Brock Nelson, a 20 to 25 goal guy is gonna get you like 40 to 50 points a year. Maybe can play a little bit of power play, maybe a little bit of penalty kill. That's kind of like an average player.
That's an average player?
20 to 25 goals, maybe 40 to 50 points.
Well, you have to figure an average player falls into what, like the, let's say, 50 and below range in terms of players.
Well, the 50.
Oh, players overall in terms of their position, probably like after 25 is probably an average player.
I mean, if you take mathematically speaking, yeah, like
That's what I'm
But
saying.
then
So,
it's like, but then you're thinking like, who's in your top 25? You know what I mean? Like that's why I was
okay.
asking for a specific player.
Well, yes, but I'm
Just-
saying like Cam Atkinson probably falls in like that 50 below range overall, like 50 to 100, let's say.
Okay, so I take back what I said. He has a roster spot, but I don't think he's better than average. I don't think I don't think he's passing Cam Atkinson in points.
Bro, Cam Atkinson has 26 points.
So
I stand by what I said.
my thoughts before we get into the big group debate here. My thoughts on this are, sure, Wayne Gretzky can't skate in today's NHL. Absolutely not. I mean, but like Steve pointed out, even back then when he was putting up 200 points, it wasn't his skating that was doing it. Sure, he doesn't score 90 goals in today's NHL because guess what? We're not playing stand-up anymore. We're not facing down a guy who's coming out to the top of his crease on 2 feet, you know? An average goalie today would be an elite goalie back then. You put Philip Grubauer back in the 70s and 80s, the dude's winning Vezina trophies left and right. That being said, the thing that really sets Wayne Gretzky apart to me, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I've seen every game he's ever played, but I've watched a fair bit of the games just between watching like old Islanders, when they faced the Oilers in the back-to-back Stanley Cups, getting to watch Wayne Gretzky. I've seen a couple of the games when he played on the LA Kings. Like Steve pointed out, late into his career when he was with some of those other teams, sure, he wasn't putting up 200 points, but he was putting up, 100-point seasons in his later years. And I think the thing that really set him apart is Wayne Gretzky sees the ice better than anyone ever has and anyone ever will. Well, I shouldn't say anyone ever will, but he sees the ice better than anyone ever has. And he's always been great at making that pass you don't think he can make. Do I think Wayne Gretzky would still be the greatest of all time if he played today? Probably not, because his point numbers would definitely not be the same. Instead of hitting 250 points, he's probably going to hit I really think nowadays, if you're hitting like 100, 120, 130 points, like you're at elite next level point percentages right there. I don't think he's average. I think that's a way aggressive claim. I don't think he's the GOAT. I think if he played today, he would still be a Hall of Famer, but I don't think he'd be considered the greatest of all time.
Okay, so I have a question then. So if we're going to rate Wayne Gretzky like that, where does Mario Lemieux fall in that conversation then?
If Mario Lemieux played today?
Yeah. Do we think he's better or worse than he was? And we can, we don't have to take into account his back injury. We'll just say from 1984 to 1992, Mario Lemieux, before he got hurt.
I think he fits a little bit better because he was always a great skater.
That's true.
And he's a big boy, so he's going to be hard to even check off the puck.
I don't think he was ever as purely talented as Wayne Gretzky was. And this is also kind of another, we'll kind of slide this topic in as well. Somebody, our buddy Ryan said, if Mario Lemieux would be considered the greatest of all time had he played a full healthy career. So we can kind of debate that as well as with this. I don't think Mario Lemieux was ever as purely talented as Wayne Gretzky. He just had a couple more tools, I think, at his disposal. His speed, he had a bigger body that would translate a little bit better to today's NHL. Do I think he would be better than Wayne Gretzky if he played today? It's possible.
See, my thinking on it is he never really broke Gretzky's totals when Gretzky was still playing with him. Do you know what I mean? Between 1984 and 1992, Wayne Gretzky won I don't know how many Hart trophies and how many Art Rosses, and I think he only lost like 2 of them, and it was 2 Mario Lemieux in the 90s. So it's like my thinking is, if I understand he fits this league better, but if Wayne Gretzky put up more points then, and we're saying he's going to put up all these points now, Mario Lemieux, in theory, wouldn't be better than Wayne Gretzky, right? Because he never put up more. He never really broke the points or the goals that Wayne Gretzky did every year.
That's a fair point. I think his skills maybe translate a little bit better to today's NHL, so he would maybe have a little bit of an edge. But I think that Wayne Gretzky's pure vision on the ice was just unbelievable. I mean, he was just magic. That's really what
saw everything.
It is. So,
see, my comment on that is that, like, yes, he had great vision, but again, you're talking about it's a different game. Like, the NHL now is not the same as in 1990.
Vision's vision, bro.
Yeah, but vision for one game is different than vision for one game than a different game.
Yeah, but like Steve brought up, he was able to adapt. I mean, he played throughout the late 90s, even from what year did he come into the league?
1980. He played from 80 to 2000.
Yeah, look how the game changed in all that time, and look how he still has vision. And, I mean, I don't know his exact numbers, but he was still putting up numbers. He wasn't, like, a total, like, wash when he retired.
You can't count out Wayne Gretzky's just, like, absolute ability to finish. Like, sure, it might not have always been pretty. Like, could he like to make the pretty passes? Yeah, but the guy still scored 92 goals. He still scored 50 goals in 39 games. Like,
yeah, but
just pure ability to finish, I think, would still translate. Like, you can't teach somebody how to score goals like that.
No, but the goalies changed around him.
But it wouldn't. I still think he'd find a way to score goals. Is what I'm saying. I mean, he ended up playing against Patrick Waugh and Dominic Hasek in like the 90s. Some of the arguably the greatest goalies of all time, and he was still putting up points on them. I mean, he came to the Rangers in '97 and put up 97 points. It was it was the last year he broke like 70 points or whatever.
Yeah, but Marty Brodeur didn't play the same way that Henrik Lundqvist did, or does.
No, it's true, but it's still comparable.
So
how many
I don't know,
does Brodeur
dude.
have?
So
I'm sorry. Who won that series in like the playoffs in like the Eastern Conference Finals?
The Rangers only have one Stanley
Wait,
Cup since
so-
Adolf Hitler.
So
was alive.
Steve, do you think that his point numbers would be close, or do you think that he would be definitely lower point totals if
I
he
mean,
played
it's in
now?
his lower point totals. I still think he'd be like 100, 110, 120 point guy. Like, I still think he'd
Right,
be on that next
okay.
level. But I don't like he's not scoring 90 goals, but I still think he'd score 40 to 50 every year. I mean, like, his ability just to finish. I saw a stat, I think it was at Sportsnet, did an article calculating what the actual best overall goal scoring season was by creating a metric that like weighted goals, like what they're worth.
I'm looking at it right now, Steve.
And Wayne Gretzky wasn't number one. I think it was Alex Ovechkin had the highest total. But Wayne Gretzky's 92 goal season still translates to like a 60 goal season
No,
in today's NHL.
in the era adjusted stats, he's still number one in almost everything except for points. When Howie Morenz has it at 190 in the 27 to 28 season.
Yeah, because Howie Morenz was producing like a 4-point a game pace when they only played like 20 games.
But in
So,
terms
like,
of
season,
points,
like 20 goals.
in terms of points and assists, he has 8 of the top 10. 8.
So like,
And
that's
that
not something you can
adjusts-
just like throw away, you know? Like,
That
these guys
adjusts
even did the
all of
math
Lemieux
on it.
stats. That adjusts all of Lemieux stats and everything. So
Yeah, I mean Gretzky's the real deal. I think all arguments that we made here are pretty legitimate. Obviously, nobody's saying he's going to go out and score 90 goals. That just doesn't happen anymore. But you can't count out, what he was able to do. But to Nick's credit and Nick's point, the league is different. The average player today would be a superstar back then. So it's always fun to play the what if. I think saying that he's average is like.
Is that true, or would the average person go to dance around a defenseman and then just get an elbow to the temple and just be bleeding
I was
out
actually
on
just going to
the
mention
ice?
that.
Because
I was going to mention that. Like,
Well, I mean, just like skill wise,
but a lot of players skate with their head down now. Like, even Matthews, when he cuts across the middle and does that stupid fucking snapshot, his head is down. Patrick
yeah,
Kane
but listen,
along the board,
look
along
at Billy
the board,
Smith.
bro.
You're behind Billy Smith's net, and you're trying to like Schnebnikov and pick it up on your stick. You know you're getting a stick to the face. Like like anybody else in the league is just gonna stop skating because they know what's gonna happen. They're just gonna look away. Like it's gonna be a murder scene. But
There are very few players who could transfer to back then, and honestly, it'd only be players who are big body on the puck, like Ovechkin,
Ryan
who's just this
Getzlaf.
fucking.
no, Alex Ovechkin would be a mega star back then. Because Alex Ovechkin can play the body. Tim's right.
Well, it's not that he can play the body; it's that he's strong on the puck, and I think Sid could do. I think Sid would just. But that's not even a question. Sid's a fucking animal. We're not gonna
Dude,
get into that now.
Sid was having guys like Shea Weber leaning on him, and they couldn't get the puck from him.
Yeah, he's just fucking better.
And
In
like that's
every
when Shea
count.
Weber couldn't just grab onto him like Scott Stevens could. Like he actually had to try to play defense.
So let's end this part with the Mario Lemieux question, and we'll just go up and down, yes or no. If Mario Lemieux played a full career, would he be considered the greatest of all time? Tim?
No,
Steve?
easy.
No, he'd be number 2 probably though.
I also say no. Nick?
Yeah, I'm gonna say no.
Joe?
Wasn't Wayne Gretzky already being called the Great One while he was still in the league while Mario Lemieux was in the league?
Yes.
Joe, did you hear the question?
Yeah, I just want to make that a point. That's my answer.
Okay. So I want to get to some more modern NHL stuff, but one more thing, we'll truncate this conversation. We'll keep it quick because I already know my answer. I already know Tim's answer. Martin Brodeur, greatest of all time, yes or no? We'll go to Steve, Steve, Joe, and Nick on this one since they weren't in the last podcast. Steve, Marty Brodeur, greatest of all time, yes or no?
No.
Where in the top 10, where is he for you?
Probably bottom half, probably outside of the top 5.
Nick, how you feeling about our boy Marty?
Not number 1, top 3.
Joe, how you feeling about Marty?
Not number 1, arguably top 3, if not definitely top 5. So like lower half, like I would say 3 to 5.
Are we all kind of in the same mindset? Because our buddy Ryan said that Martin Brodeur only holds all the records he does, like in the wins and shutouts, because of A, how long his career was, and B, because of the trap defense of the New Jersey Devils. Do we all feel that?
That is very true.
Yeah, the
but
trap.
what I saw him do to the New York Rangers, and I'm not trying to talk shit about the Rangers, but what he did to the Rangers and how he literally just did some scorpion spread eagle. I curled my legs up and saved it with like the skate blade. That's just something, like going back to what Steve was saying, stuff that you just don't teach. That is natural. He just knew how to make the save. And he's still a great goalie regardless. He was just on the right team at the right time.
It was the Marc-Andre Fleury effect. He made all the saves he needed to.
Yeah, I mean, I personally put him at number 3 when we did the list, but it's hard to say. I really think that his wins record is almost entirely because of how long he played.
Well, that's also because of how little shots he faced.
He once faced
to how much
6
longer
shots
he could play
in a playoff game, by the way. He faced 6 shots in a playoff game once. So that tells you anything, He's great at stopping 6 shots a night.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Marty's bad by any stretch. He's just not, like, those numbers are so inflated. Like you said, like when he's facing like less than 20 shots a night, like you could stick a You could stick like Cam Talbot in there, and he'd win like 40 games a year.
You stick Rob in that.
Like it's not hard.
No.
Like,
Oh, that'd be a tough one, Tim.
Because if one of those first shots went in, we'd be screwed.
I think actually
You're
we
right.
did the math on this. He faced less than the average number of shots. I took like the average number of shots each goalie faced in the league and compared it to how many average number of shots Marty faced. He faced less than average shots every single season of his career up until he retired. So,
Good for him.
like,
And he
Okay.
did win a cup in St. Louis.
so let's go to some modern NHL stuff here. Before we go on to players, let's go to this one here. The only reason the Arizona Coyotes and the Florida Panthers haven't moved yet is because Gary Bettman refuses to let those teams fail. Does anybody disagree with that
No.
statement?
I mean, it's the truth.
Yeah, it's just
I mean,
Like the league took
Nah.
ownership of Arizona twice.
So do you think it would be fairer for the league to just let the Arizona Coyotes fail naturally and move?
Yeah, I mean, that roster is good enough and deserves a fan base. I mean,
It's
and they're
a little more
trying really hard to
complicated.
cultivate one in Arizona, and it's just not the environment for it. It just isn't. It's a football town. Like, it's in the desert.
Does anybody have any dissenting opinions on that?
I think that it's a little more complicated than just letting them fail, though.
I mean, yeah, but like, there is something you said, like, they should let them leave if they want to.
Well, I don't disagree with that. I think if they can make some structured plan to move, I think that'd be the only way that they could do it. I don't think they could simply like say, "Oh, the team failed, fuck them." Like next year they're gone. It would need to be like a 5-year like transfer over almost, just because you would need to first you need to find somewhere to do it. Second, you need to establish like all the projections, because there's a lot more business end to it than we normal people would like to believe, and a lot more numbers that need to be involved for investors and things like that.
And I think the second half of this, like talking about Florida, like Florida just ran into the problem of, sure, they were the first Florida team to play for a Stanley Cup, but then Tampa Bay was the first one to win it, and Tampa Bay's had like more consistently good teams. So Florida just never took and never drew. So I don't know why. And like that team is so good. Like they really should deserve a spotlight. Like
Where's
Alexander
their
Barkov
stadium?
deserves to be playing in the spotlight.
Where's the Florida Stadium?
it's in Miami. That's another thing people don't realize. It's right outside of Miami. And Tampa, and yes, and it's a football town. And Tampa Bay and over there in that area is filled with a whole bunch of people from the Northeast that has moved down there to live.
I
So,
also feel like it's also a very big college area. Not
Tampa?
that Miami isn't, but like Miami's big college and it's football, like you said.
yeah, the Dolphins are huge there. But
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
but like,
Tampa
yeah, but
doesn't
just
have
overall.
like a great. I'm saying like Tampa doesn't have like some superstar sports team other than the Lightning, really, and maybe the Bucks. Now, we got we
Well,
got
I mean,
we got
that's-
TV down there, but
Well, the other thing is like,
and Gronk, because, Patriots suck.
I mean, I just think Tampa Bay has been more successful at like just cultivating a winning culture, and Florida just like has always been kind of bad.
yeah.
And then they were, like you said, they're competing with the spotlight with LeBron James's Miami Heat, and like even the Dolphins are gonna outsell them, even though the Dolphins have been terrible for how long? Like,
The Dolphins have that's a loyal fan base though.
well, that's it. They're not
Those
gonna
people
go
are
anywhere.
waiting for Marino. They're waiting for Dan to come back reincarnated.
Yeah, bro, they're waiting for another 16-0 season.
The most people that it is Ace Ventura. He cursed them when they took the Dolphin.
All right. So we have a couple more here before we wrap up. Let's do
Hit
this.
us with it, Rob. I
Let's-
want to argue. Hit us with it. You already
You
know what
want
I'm
to
saying.
argue?
Let's go for it.
Oh, give us a juicy one, Rob.
Let's see. If you want to argue, why don't we go
You
with...
know which one's gonna start the biggest argument, bro.
I'm going to finish with that one. This one's also interesting. William Nylander is the same caliber of player as Sam Reinhart.
Yo, did Rob just get 10 decibels higher for anybody else?
Yeah.
That was... Really? My mic might have just exploded on you.
No, what? No, why is this even a question? Can we skip it?
Wait, what was the question again? I'm sorry. Rob's loudness was
William
distracting me.
Nylander is the same caliber of player as Sam Reinhart.
No, they're not. Nylander's way better.
Steve, I know you want to respond, buddy.
Well, this is my question. I'll just say it. I'll put it out there. I think Sam Reinhart in the same environment that William Nylander is in Toronto would put up the 60 points and the 20 goals. I mean, he puts up 40 to 50 goals now and 10 to 15 points riding coattails of Jack Eichel with no other help. So I feel like if he had another option, it would boost it just enough to get him to be the 20 to 60 point range, the 20 goal 60 point range. I think you put William Nylander anywhere else, and he doesn't necessarily have the same impact. I mean, he's playing with, in that top six, he's playing with anybody from Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews, to John Tavares. So it's really hard to tell because I feel like his numbers might be inflated too because of the group he's playing in. He's insulated,
I agree. I think that Sam Reinhart definitely doesn't have the help that William Nylander does, for sure. And it's hard to say if Sam Reinhart had a teammate was worth it, whose name isn't Jack Eichel. How many more points would he have? Because let's face it, I mean, Jack Eichel's really the Buffalo Sabres at this point. So
yeah, I mean,
I think that's an interesting one for debate. Does anybody else have any strong opinions on it, or do you want to just get to the big fight at the end here?
Let's get into the big
I
fight.
honestly don't know enough about Sam Reinhart to really have an opinion.
So I agree with you, Steve. Let's see. So how long have we been going here? It's about an hour 20. So, all right. So I just want to say before we get into this last one, if your prompt didn't get selected, I'm going to keep it because we're going to be doing, like I said, multiple of these. So we'll probably get to it in a future episode. So don't worry if your prompt didn't get selected. There's a couple that I wanted to do still, but we're kind of getting a little bit long. So we'll skip to the end here. So let's have a fight. Jack Eichel is better than Austin Matthews.
You stupid fucking beanhead. You put this question in because you wanted to fight. Let's get at it.
Jack
Eichel is
better than Austin Matthews.
Jack Eichel is better.
He's not.
Jack Eichel is better. You are correct.
You guys
he's just not.
have I don't know what hurt your brain so much, but something did.
How many points is Jack Eichel putting up if you let him play with actual players? If Jack Eichel can play with John Tavares or Mitch Marner or William Nylander, how many points do you think he's putting up? Because he's already putting up close to point per game, playing with schlups and nobody. He played with
but this is
Jeff Skinner, who scored 40 goals once.
Right, but how many points did he put up? I think Jack Eichel is hard to tell because he's not consistent. He hasn't been this explosive for this long. He looked really disinterested for a long time, remember? His numbers weren't as good as they should have been, and he also had some injuries. But Austin Matthews stepped into the NHL, onto a Toronto team that didn't have John Tavares, and he only had rookie Mitch Marner, and he scored 40 goals. And he did it again. And then he did it again. And this year he was on pace to score 50. So it's I just think that track record's hard to argue with.
I also don't think Jack Eichel should ever play center.
He's a great
Really
center,
now.
don't get me wrong.
His face-off percentage is literal dog shit.
So I get does it not give Jack Eichel a little bit more credit that he's doing so well playing with literally nobody?
I mean, but it's
There's
such
a lot
a
to be said
sudden
about
thing.
There's a lot to be said about it. But, when you're a superstar, it doesn't fucking matter. Any superstar could go over there and just put up a shit ton of numbers because someone has to score goals. Someone has to get assists. He's on the first line. Like it's not like they're a bunch of handicapped players on the ice.
Well, here's my thing. My thing with Jack Eichel is it's just like it's not a consistent track record. I mean, he put up 73 points this year in 60 some odd games, so he's on pace to put up over 80. That would be the first time in his career he's done anything. I think up until this point, the highest point total he's had has been like 60 to 65 points.
He had 82 last year.
Did he have 82 last year? Okay.
Yeah, he
So, I
had
mean,
56, 57, 64. But the 57, he had 56 and 81 his rookie season,
Mhm.
57 and 61, 64 and 67, 82 and 77, and this year at 78 and 68.
I mean, I think
To
if
give
you
a-
asked me this question in 4 years, I would say, yeah, Jack Eichel is probably better because by that point, Jack Eichel will probably have established himself. But to me, Austin Matthews is like in that conversation for one of the best centers in the league. Like to me, he's a top 3 center in the NHL. Probably it's like Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, and then Austin Matthews. Like that's just how I'm looking at it. Because yeah, sure, Sid's still there and Sid's still great, but he's not scoring the 40 to 50 goals that Austin Matthews is. You know, like
So
like, it's hard to argue with that goal scoring.
just to put it in context, Austin Matthews' career numbers, he has 158 goals, 127 assists, 285 points, and 282 games played. Jack Eichel has 137 goals, 200 assists, 337 points in 354 games played. So Austin Matthews is just above point per game. Jack Eichel is just below point per game. I think it's
Can you get their face-off percentage numbers for me?
I think it's too close in terms of point production, in terms of point percentage. I think it's way too close. And then when you consider the caliber of teams that they're playing with, I mean, I gotta give it to my boy Jack. Like, I think if Jack Eichel had better players, his numbers would be through the roof.
Can you give me that
almost
number?
point per game playing with nobody. Hold on, Tim. I'm looking that up right now.
Because I want you to give me that number and tell me how his team affects that percentage.
Okay, so what if Jack Eichel's not the best face-off man on the planet? Does that make him not almost a point per game, playing
Bro,
with guys like 20
He
goal
went
scorers Jeff
below
Skinner
40 He went
and
below 40%.
rookie goal Victor Olofsson? This guy was playing with Kyle Okposo at one point, and he was still
Hey.
putting up
40%.
numbers.
Who loses less than 40? Who wins less than 40% of their face-offs?
Does that stop him from scoring goals playing with AHL players?
I think
No,
the
but it takes
face-off percentage argument kind of isn't a great one because not everyone's Patrice Bergeron, and you can learn to be better in face-offs.
Why is it?
No, but when Austin Matthews is getting around 55 each year,
Okay,
quite
so
the
Austin
discrepancy.
Matthews wins like maybe 3 or 4 extra face-offs a night, and that somehow makes him better because he's playing with all-stars, and Austin Matthews is playing with Kyle Okposo and Matt Molson to begin his career. I don't understand your argument with the face-offs here. Like,
you're comparing two high-caliber players.
Alex
Every
Ovechkin has a
factor
100%
matters.
face-off percentage.
He's a
Just gonna
bro,
put that. I know that's not a good argument. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Wait, what was the number?
Alex Ovechkin has won 1 face-off, and he took 1 face-off this year.
Oh, what a pro.
Brendan Smith is also 1 for 1.
Attaboy,
He's the
Brendan.
GOAT. He's the
There you
GOAT.
go, Smitty.
Rob, do you remember when Brandon Wett took that face off on purpose and they played him at center on a penalty kill in like 2005?
I just don't see how you're not going to factor in face-off percentage when they're centers.
It's a factor, but it's not enough for
Wow.
me to say
I
that.
just got ignored.
I heard you, Joe. I don't remember that actually. Honestly, I'm gonna be
Oh.
real honest with you.
Really?
Austin Matthews has 55%. All I'm saying is that if Austin Matthews was winning more of his faceoffs and he also had like a 1.25 point per game and Jack Eichel only had like a 0.75, that would be a bigger impact. But Jack Eichel is literally like maybe 0.2 or 0.3 points per game less than Austin Matthews. He's only losing like maybe an extra 3 or 4 faceoffs a night, and he's playing with literally nobody on a team that has literally no help, with goalies that literally don't help him, so he also has to try to play defense. Like, he doesn't have a team. I love Buffalo's defense, but they're still super young. Victor Olofsson looks like he's going to be great. Jeff Skinner is never scoring 40 goals again for the rest of his career. He was on pace to score like 12 this year. And guess what? Even playing with a guy that's on pace to score like 15 to 20 goals, Jack Eichel still had 78 points in 68 games played. Like,
Okay, but I gave you a stat that is important and matters, despite how you don't want to think it does. And
it's
it's
10%.
purely them. No one on the team affects that stat.
Okay, so you're saying that because 1 out of every 10 faceoffs, Matthews will win and Eichel will lose, that makes him a better player, even though their point percentages are relatively the same and Jack Eichel's playing with nobody. I don't like your faceoff argument makes sense, but it doesn't excuse the fact that Jack Eichel is playing with AHLers. And that's just what it comes down to.
I think this
Okay.
really is like a modern version of the Zetterberg versus Datsuk argument. Because it's like it's so hard. You're shaving like hairs here. Like it's so hard to tell because like they're both top 5 centers in the NHL. Like I would love to have either one of them on my team. But I don't know. I think Austin Matthews is just better right now.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Austin Matthews is a bad player. I think he's a fantastic player. My main reason for saying that is just because
No, I understand. Like he's got a lot of help.
you just can't excuse the fact that he's playing with all-star talent. And
Can we also look back at the list of top 10s? And can Rob tell me where he put each
so
player?
let me explain that, because when you're looking at making a top 10 list, you have to take into this. That was not a top 10 skilled players, because that list would be very different. Because Sidney Crosby would be near the top of that list if it was just purely based on skill. But when you're making a top 10 list, you have to take into account the
Who
team.
said this was a
success.
purely skill argument? Didn't we
that-
just say who was better?
Yes, but that's what that boils down to is an individual as a player, an individual argument between Austin Matthews and Jack Eichel comes down to who's the more talented all-around player. But when you're making a top 10 active list, you have to take into account the team's success around them and how much they've done in other situations. Like, we've never seen Jack Eichel in the playoffs. So what if he's a total bust? You know? So I have to give the edge to Austin Matthews because we've seen him in the playoffs and we know that he can perform in the playoffs. So that's why I have to give Austin Matthews the nod on a top 10 list of active players, because I have to take into account his success. He's, been sure, he's had more success. He's had better numbers, slightly better numbers. He's gone to the playoffs. He's performed in the playoffs. We haven't seen Jack Eichel in the playoffs, but if you're asking me skill for skill, who's a better player, I'm still going to tell you it's Jack Eichel. That was my mentality going into that top 10 list, was that it's I have to take these things into account. Because if it was just top 10 skill based on skill, then Sidney Crosby is still probably a top 3 skill player in the NHL. I just don't think he's a top 10 player overall in the NHL anymore, because he doesn't do what he used to do. You know what I'm saying? Nick and Joe, you've been oddly quiet during this whole debacle.
Yeah, let's go, retard boy. This was your fucking question.
Going
Speak a
back
little
to
bit.
what Steve said before about how, William Nylander is not better than Sam Reinhart because Sam Reinhart's playing with nobody. Well, we do have to kind of take into effect that Sam Reinhart is kind of one of those nobodies, considering look at Austin Matthews' point total when he's playing throughout his career with other superstars. I mean, go give Jack Eichel, Mitch Marner, Nylander, John Tavares, and Morgan Riley and see how many points he'll put up in a season.
Nick, how do you feel about this whole thing?
Honestly, I think Austin Matthews is better. But, looking at the numbers, I guess they're closer than I thought they were. Realistically. I mean, I don't really see Jack Eichel play very often. I find myself watching Toronto games much more than Buffalo games. But,
I don't think anybody would blame you for that.
I mean, it's just the lesser of two evils,
Toronto
really.
sucks to watch.
What? That's a hot
I don't
take.
enjoy watching them.
What?
I don't enjoy watching
That's a hot
Toronto play.
take.
They're
I
one of the
don't
most
enjoy-
talented teams in the league. What?
I
What?
just don't enjoy watching
Yeah,
them
but
play.
they have some real stinkers out there sometimes.
Yeah, like the discrepancy between their good games and their bad games is fucking huge.
I mean, Rob, you and I literally sat and watched them blow a 3-1 lead to lose 7-3 or something. It was like, how do you even do this?
Wait,
I mean, they did lose
didn't
to a
we?
Zamboni driver.
Yeah,
Weren't we?
how did you even do this? How did you lose to the Zamboni drive?
Yeah, that's why Jack Eichel's also better.
He's never lost to a
a
Zamboni
driver.
Losses to Zamboni drivers. One Austin Matthews.
Guys, weren't we watching a Toronto game at Tim's house, and we turned it off because of how boring it was?
Yeah,
Probably.
yeah, they looked really disinterested. It was like them versus like Arizona, and it was just
Yeah,
like, wow,
it
this
was
is
like,
boring.
why are we?
When they get shut down, they get shut down pretty hard. That's true. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting debate, and I think it's a great question, and I think that's a great place for us to stop, unless anybody else has any other points they want to make about that.
Well, Joe
Not
had a real
about
solid
that.
argument about this, and now he just kind of turtled. So I'm kind of pissed at him.
I wish I remembered my argument.
Oh my god. Well,
Wait, can we talk about how Joe thinks that Kreider is worse than Anders Lee, Peugeot, and Adam Fox?
well, Adam
I
Fox plays defense.
definitely think he's better than Chris Kreider.
Currently?
Yes.
I don't think you can really. I don't like that argument because it's a really hard comparison to make because they're such
Okay,
different players.
But like Joe, in terms of top 10 like sports players in the NHL, ignoring the Buffalo because no one cares about Buffalo, for New York, Joe has Kreider at 8 below them.
Kreider's a tough one because he's so goddamn inconsistent, and you know, like Steve has pointed out several times, he was on pace
Currently?
to score. He's had this season.
This is a
He's had
current
a
like
good
this is a
season.
current thing. It
Alright,
has to be
if you're-
current because Adam Fox is only this season.
If you want to microanalyze this one particular season, then sure, Chris Kreider's a top 3
This
player.
isn't me
right now.
microanalyzing. That's the question.
But if you're talking about them as are we saying
I
Chris
just told you
Kreider-
the question.
if the question is Chris Kreider a better player than Anders Lee or JG Pajot, you have to take into account their whole career up to this point.
And
Hey.
Chris Kreider is the answer in that.
This season of the
Situation.
question got missed.
You guys do know Anders Lee does average more points per game than Chris Kreider, right?
That doesn't mean he's better.
He's also a captain. He's also
Anders
not
Lee-
streaky as shit like Chris Kreider.
No, that's not true. Come on, Joe.
He's not as streaky as Chris Kreider.
You're
He's not
right.
as streaky
You're
as Chris
right.
Kreider, but he is a
Honestly,
streaky
He didn't do
player.
anything. He just
Okay,
didn't do
yeah, but
anything the
Chris
whole last
Kreider
half.
had a 40-goal season at one point in his career. So if we're taking just this season, sure, Anders Lee did not have a good year this year. He'll be the first one to tell you that. I'll be the second one to tell you
That's
that.
the question. I don't know why you're getting mad about the question.
Because your question doesn't make... Okay, is your... Tim,
This
before you
is
yell...
Joe's
before
point.
you yell-
Joe's question. Why
Wait.
are you getting mad at me?
Before you yell at me, let me ask you
question
this.
just for this
Let
year.
me
What
ask
just
you this.
happened?
Is the question either A, is Chris Kreider better than Anders Lee and JG Pajot for the 2019-2020 season, or are they better players in general? What's the prompt?
Currently, right now, better players.
That is not one of the questions that I offered you.
Yes, it is. It's this season. This season is current.
So 2019-2020, who's the better player?
Yes.
Then obviously it's Chris Kreider. That's not even a debate. Anders Lee's on pace to put up like 20 goals. Like, he's had a horrible season.
This is how I rank them: Panarin, Zibanejad, Barzell, Fox, Lee. No, I'm sorry. I had Panarin, Zibanejad, Barzell, Lee, Peugeot, Fox, Kreider.
Are we just gonna
I
ignore
honestly feel
Tony
like
DeAngelo?
Fox will be number 4, if not 3. The only reason I had him lower is because he's a rookie.
And
What
soon
about
will
Tony
be
D?
Keandre Miller.
I think you're overlooking Tony D. Tony DeAngelo's had a great season.
No, and
But-
then and after that, after Kreider, I had Pelican Tony D'Angelo.
Okay, so if your argument is specifically for this season, then 100% Chris Kreider is a better player. He had a fantastic year for the New York Rangers. He really took a step forward, and he was consistent throughout an entire season, sort of. He had a kind of weak start. Everyone can acknowledge that, right? So if your argument is just for this season, then yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Can you stop saying my argument and my thing? This was
I'm
Joe's.
talking to Joe. Or I'm talking to you. Well, I'm talking to you by proxy. Whatever. The point is, if the argument, so not anybody's specific argument, if the argument is that Chris Kreider is a better player this year, absolutely, 100% agree with you. I think had a fantastic season for the New York Rangers. So, if your argument is over their career, that's a different debate. This particular season, Chris Kreider was fantastic. Again, kind of a slow start, but he had a hot ending, and he was consistent from the middle to the end of the regular season.
And you guys do realize that a page that posted that was a Rangers fan base.
Well,
Joe,
I
it
mean, the
doesn't
Rangers fans
change
have a love-hate relationship with Chris Kreider.
It doesn't change the fact. Like, your point doesn't change anything.
But yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. Over the course of the career, that's a different debate. But this season, it's kind of hard to make that argument because Anders Lee's not really had a great season, all things considered. He really took a huge step back for us this year. Does anybody have any other last-minute things they want to bring up? All right,
No.
sounds good.
That's it. I'm sorry.
Before we go, one last quick little thing. I'll let you guys go. Playoffs are coming. Who's your Stanley Cup matchup and who's your Stanley Cup winner? Start with Joe.
Sorry, I did not expect this to come. It just kind of hit me.
Or just do it off the dome. Stanley Cup match.
No, I don't think he's talking about your question when he said that. I think something else
LA
hit him.
Kings, New Jersey Devils.
All right, good answer. Nick, who's your Stanley Cup matchup and who's winning?
The matchup, I'm looking at a rematch from last season, Blues Bruins, and the Blues are going to win it again.
Steve.
I'm looking at Blues Lightning. I think the Lightning knock off the Blues.
Tim.
Avalanche Capitals.
And
Spicy.
who's winning?
That's a spicy one.
Abs.
So we have
That'd be
a
a really good Stanley Cup, actually.
bunch of different answers. I'm still sticking with what I said towards the middle of this season. I'm going with Dallas, Tampa Bay, and I think the Dallas Stars are going to take home the Stanley Cup
Actually,
this year.
I retract. Abs Carolina.
You're out of
I
your
was going to
mind.
say Dallas.
You
I
are.
was going to say Dallas, Carolina as
No,
an actual
no,
guess.
no. You got to think about it. All them injuries, boy. That's what it's all about. There's no more injuries.
If Peter Mrazek carries that team to a Stanley Cup, then I don't know what to tell you.
There's no more injuries, bro. All injuries are gone.
So you're saying that the New York Rangers are going to get knocked out in the play-in rounds?
I have no idea. I don't like to bet on them. I make a point
I
to
never bet on the Rangers.
I
They
never bet on the
always
Rangers.
disappoint me.
It's not even that.
If your
If the
matchup
Rangers,
involves Carolina, then they have to lose because they play Carolina in the play-in round.
well, I always say that the Rangers are going to lose or they're not going to make it. So if they do, I can just be happy.
There you go. You expect the worst.
No, but like the thing is, if I bet on the Rangers to make it all the way and they don't, then I'm sad because my team lost, and I'm sad because my bracket's fucked.
Oh goodness. Well, I think that's gonna about wrap it up. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for joining me for this. Like I said, we're probably gonna try to do more of these in the future. It is my pleasure. At some point, we'll probably be trying to do more of these in the future. Keep an eye out for the content regarding the upcoming playoffs for the NHL. We're going to be going back to our weekly podcasts once the playoffs start, once we have more content to bring you. Until then, we'll probably be doing some more predictions, hodgepodge kind of stuff. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys again next time. Hey, good looks, guys. Now I have to stop Craig. Craig, stop, please.
Yeah, I swear to God, Craig's loud as fucking my ear.
Well, thank